going to make a side table out of two book-matched walnut pieces. And right now what I'm doing is I'm getting all the bark off. And I'm getting all the bark off because I'm going to fill this void here that I'm getting the bark out, as well as on the sides with epoxy. You want to get all the bark off so that the epoxy has good adhesion. And then I'm also going to take a wire wheel and just make sure I've cleaned up every little bit of bark that I can. So I'm going to fill those two voids in the middle on each slab with a different color just to give it a little pop. And what I'm doing right now is taking some Tyvek tape, putting it on the underside so I don't have any colored bleed out underneath. And Tyvek tape is really good for that, and it also doesn't stick to the epoxy when you take it off. So now that I've got the undersides taped off, I'm filling those voids with some blue colored resin. Now that I've got the blue colors finished, I went with a dark gray, but it's a little translucent so you'll be able to see through. And because I'm going to finish the slab top and bottom, I wasn't too worried about overpour. You'll see later I've got a little router sled jig that I clean it up with, so this just helps me get a good layer all the way across. So now I'm taking the torch here and popping some bubbles. I really didn't need to do this because it's deep pour, and two, I'm going to take the router sled to it and shave it off anyway, but I figured might as well. So now it's time to demold and taking out all the screws, and you can see I put Tyvek tape on all the sides and bottoms. So now I'm using the router sled here, and I use some blue tape to hold the piece down while I'm going back and forth. And the key when you're going back and forth on this is just to shave off little bits at a time. You don't want to take too much off. So now I'm going to the table saw, and I'm going to square off all the edges after I've got it down to the thickness that I want it. Once I do that, then I'm going to go ahead and take a router and round off all of the edges on all four sides on the top, four sides on the bottom. You'll notice that little benchtop clamp from Krieg. It is a lifesaver when you're working by yourself and you want to work quickly. You can see it's just easily adjustable with one hand, and you can lift it up, turn your piece, put it back down, and it's got a nice sturdy plate that you can mount right into your workbench. Now it's time for some sanding, and it's a lot of sanding. You'll notice that little purple piece there on the black hose. I was able to 3D print a attachment to downsize from my random orbit sander to my shop vac. So I went all the way to 400 on this, and then I came back with 4,000 on all of the epoxy pieces to give it a nice little shine there using some wet sanding, and went all the way up to 4,000 grit. So now I used the buffer and put on some general wax to give it a nice little shine there, and I'm doing it on both sides and doing a couple coats here. For the next step and finish, I'm using some Black Forest Ceramics base coat and then their top coat. This is a brand new product from them, and so far I really like how it goes. It goes a long way. You can see I'm not really putting much on the pad, and you go all the way around on the outside, and then you come back and fill it in. At least that's the instructions that they give you. So I did 2 different base coats, and then I also did 2 different top coats. They recommend 1 top coat, but I did 2 just to give it a shine. But you can see how it picks up the blue really nicely in the light there. And I'm really happy with how that finish turned out. So I did the base coats, and then I come back here and do the ceramic top coat there. So the last step here is I'm putting in some threaded furniture inserts, and what I'm doing is I'm drilling 2 different size holes, one for the main insert and then one to countersink it because it has a little lip. I picked up this little tip from Cam at Blacktail Studios. I'll put a link to his channel down below. So now that I've got the holes drilled, I'm just putting the inserts in, and then you'll see the rest with the base. Here's the finished product. I'm really happy with it.